Hello guys! One of many reasons why we should not negotiate with Russia and appease the Kremlin dictator is that Russia has serious troubles inside its army. They do not have enough people and now are desperately looking where to get more of the kamikazes, starting from the prisoners and those who have debt, and finishing with the new portion of the North Korean soldiers because the previous one has already expired. This is sad, this is crazy, but unfortunately the modern world does not look good. And I'm happy that in this chaos we do have some important and positive news coming from Ukraine, and that is a number of evil military objects destroyed inside Russia, starting from a precise and very accurate strike on Kursk command point that neutralized a lot of Russian top officers and once again some of those poor North Korean soldiers. It was a hellish week for Russian oil refineries, and it was a week of unusual messages from the US administration about the potential negotiations and the need for elections in Ukraine. I will share my thoughts later in the video, but right now I want to support the people of Georgia who continue protesting against the violent pro-Russian regime. And it's actually quite weird how some of our allies start playing by the Russian rules and India and China stop buying Russian oil. Traditional Russian economic partners realize it's better to stay away from the Kremlin. So let's discuss all of these important events on our way to defeat the Kremlin. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see how demilitarization of Russia continues and also protect yourself against their very real hybrid warfare, literally in every corner of the world, subscribe, we discuss all of that on the channel. This week was marked by a very precise, accurate, and important strike on another Russian command point in Kursk. A kind reminder, this is one of many of the Russian regions that turned out into a war zone, and all because Putin and his population wanted this war, so they finally got it back home. And it is a part of a bigger strategy, and it's actually not the first and not the second and not the last command point that we have destroyed there with an accurate strike. Most importantly, these are very important command points because active combat operations take place in Kursk. Putin dedicated all of his efforts, all of his troops to liberate the Kursk region, promised that liberation a number of times, but each of times he failed, just as with his blitzkrieg. And targeting these command points in Kursk region, we actually destroyed this top management of the Russian army, which goes in line with the best peace strategy ever, and that is the demilitarization of the Russian Federation. Smart people do understand that North Korean soldiers in Russia is not the illustration of Putin's strengths, but the illustration of weakness and problems with conscription inside Russia. I realize trolls will come and start telling me we have problems with conscription in Ukraine, and I have answers. First of all, our problems are not that big, and Ukraine is an open country and you literally see everything what is happening here. And right now we have a lot of new brigades shaped. We've changed the approach. More people can choose positions to their liking, and we are fighting on the front lines. You see the results. We are fighting inside Russia too. And being like many times larger than Ukraine, approximately 110 million more larger in population, Russia already experiences problems with the conscription. And the first portion of North Korean soldiers evaporated. They tried their best, but they failed. And even New York Times proves this with the evidence from their sources, so it's not just the subjective Ukrainian observations. And of course, new portions of North Korean soldiers may come. I feel sorry for these people who come from one desperate country to this very desperate meat grinders organized by another desperate authoritarian regime. Trust me, the world will be such a good place without Putin, without Kim Jong-un, and that is actually what we should want, not appeasement, not negotiations. According to Russian sources, they plan to conscript more people from prisons and debtors. And that is actually a very tricky word because in Russia, with their huge economic problems, with growing key interest rates, with the potential freezing of people's deposits, I think half of their population, if not all, will turn into debtors soon and perhaps will be invited to fight for Putin on the front lines. So approximately they want to conscript 125,000 of prisoners, and they plan to have like 10,000 per month, which is another proof of the rates with which they lose people. Soon it will be 1 million of lost lives. So those of you who want to appease Putin, if you don't care about Ukraine, if you don't care about justice, then care about those poor Russians. Oh my God, that is insane. Subscribe to see the defeat of the Kremlin. It is inevitable, and the process has already started, especially if we continue targeting their oil depots and refineries. This week was truly hellish for the industry, and it's important because, first of all, we ruin the supplies of oil, fuel, and all that stuff to the front lines. Second, it targets badly Russian economy that is purely dig and sell economy. They can only sell their raw materials. They are not competitive. They don't produce anything. And also, precise strikes demonstrate the vulnerability of Russia, send messages to the population that not everything goes according to the plan, and they cannot repair those oil depots and refineries because quite often they lack details they need. Sanctions work, they cannot buy it from Europe or North America, and also it's quite difficult to repair these things, especially after numerous and serious attacks. Most importantly, like evidence, videos, and Russian reaction proves there is literally nothing they can do. And Ukrainian drones can destroy various locations deep inside the Russian area, visit one and the same object after it was repaired, which proves there is nothing Russia can do to defend itself. And of course, this is not a strong country. And they keep demonstrating their negligence, their unprofessionalism, and that's what we see in this very awful cases when Russia bombs itself. We know that Belgorod region suffers from that, and Suja is another point that is a settlement under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces, and they keep fighting for it, but drop bombs on their own locations. And this week, a tragedy happened in one of the nursery homes for the elderly people. And Russians are just Russians. They target civilian objects in Ukraine, and they now target civilian objects in Russia. And that is another proof that this attitude to human life is unbearable. And even Russian ombudsman, when talking about the Ukrainian soldiers in Kursk, reports about this very good attitude, and like that Ukrainian soldiers treat Russian people in Kursk better than Russian soldiers. I know that. I'm sure that was a surprise to the Russian population, but they just keep observing and let this war continue. Contrary to what the Georgian people do, they keep protesting against the pro-Russian party, against oligarchs that come to rule. And oh my God, people of the world, people of the North America, please be careful. Don't let super rich people decide for you how to live and how to think. That is very dangerous. And when I read about some cases of corruption, I can guarantee you Ukraine is definitely not a corrupt country if you look at what is happening right now in the world around. And various protests continue, and it's not the first time we see people oppose Prime Minister of Slovakia. We see serious protests on the streets of Serbia. I don't know if I have many subscribers from this country, but I remember I visited Novi Sad, I visited Belgrade, and these are very beautiful cities, and I wish you all the best. And please do not think that Russians care or support anything good, anything freedom loving, so please be careful. And at the same time, there are some signals coming from the new US administration that I don't like. And that is the talks about the need to compromise, and both parties, definitely Ukraine is not both parties with Russia. We are an independent country that lived its life peacefully, and Russia first attacked us in 2014, annexed our territories, and then continued with a full-scale invasion, totally unprovoked war, which resulted in lots of destructions and taken human lives. It cannot be forgiven, and most importantly, Putin is a war criminal. So there is no way to negotiate with him or to speak about the legitimacy of President Zelensky in contrast to President Putin. Please subscribe to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine, with President Zelensky. It means a lot to me, and share these videos on your social media platforms. This helps to debunk Russian lies that they spread with the help of some strong and influential people. And let me remind you that Ukraine had more presidents during this time than Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan combined. And Putin is the ruler of Russia for the last 25 years. And literally, even the former Ukrainian president, Petro Poroshenko, who definitely wants to return back and to become a president on the next term, speaks about the impossibility of the elections during the wartime or ceasefire. And as a Ukrainian, and the majority of Ukrainians, I'd say like 98%, we are all against these elections, let's say this year. Because first of all, it's impossible, like 3.5, it's at best million of our people abroad, lots of soldiers, lots of destroyed homes. It's extremely dangerous to organize votings, and I'm not sure that I can come, for example, to a polling station knowing that Russians can target me. And most importantly, how do you campaign? How do you let other candidates actively participate? And I'm sure no one in Ukraine will accept the results of the elections where we can not participate. I mean, like 10% of people abroad, lots of soldiers on the front lines. And that is totally insane. And speaking about the legitimacy, I'm sure that President Zelensky is 100 times more legitimate than a war criminal Putin at rule for 25 years. And this is definitely an argument that Putin mentioned in one of his interviews, and then General Kellogg repeated, which disappointed me greatly. And yes, during the Second World War, Great Britain did not hold elections. If it happened in the United States, well, guys, you did not have active combat actions on the territory of your state. And that is a huge difference. Please ask Ukrainian people if we want that. And also, I can guarantee you that even after we have these elections and Zelensky or anyone else is elected, Putin will return back to his talks about illegitimacy, saying that 2014 was a coup. When 2014 was a coup with Yanukovych, whom Putin wanted to assign as our president, breaking the desire of Ukrainian people, violating Ukrainian constitution and annexing Ukraine, just as he annexed Belarus. We did not let that back in 2014, and we will never let that. And I'm actually glad that more and more wise people see that Russia is not a trustworthy partner, Russia is non-negotiable, and it is a country that will collapse sometime soon. And after US sanctions on Russian oil shadow fleet, we observe that even traditional Russian supporters, at least in the economical field, India and China, decided to stop buying Russian oil products. They are watching what will the president of the United States do. Will he impose stronger sanctions on Russia? And if Russian oil prices go higher, China and India will stop buying them. They will not be backing up Russia. So actually, it's quite easy to destroy their already collapsing economy. And here I have a question. What is happening with these Trump tariffs on Canada and on Mexico, and I am a little bit worried if this can influence oil prices and actually benefit Russia in the end. I'm not claiming it's true, I'm just asking your opinion because I have a lot of friends from different corners of the world, and I can genuinely tell you they are worried. Please remember that democracies are beautiful because we can change a lot of things, we can demonstrate our dissatisfaction with our politicians, but sometimes authoritarian regimes look stronger because they have this total control, which in reality is just the suppression and prison for the population, and they simply outweigh how friends quarrel, allies, do bad things to each other, and then China or Russia comes and takes it all. Trust me, I'm a Ukrainian and I don't want to change this vlog into, some kind of third world war advice. Unfortunately, I've collected a lot of skills I can share with you, but trust me, we need to remain united and we need to focus on this global evil that disrespects human life, that undermines all the agreements that help us survive the second half of the 20th century, and most importantly, don't let Russia win the Cold War, because it may be for the North Americans it seems like that Cold War ended with the collapse of the USSR, but for Russia it never ended, and that is exactly a battle of this Cold War that they want to win. And here in Ukraine we are determined not just to win this battle, but to end this war with the defeat and demilitarization of Russia. Let us do the job. Continue supporting Ukraine, continue trusting our Ukrainian experience, and not just Ukrainian, Lithuanian, Georgian, Moldovan, Polish, many more people will support what I'm saying. Russia must and will be defeated. Join me on Instagram, join me on X, Blue Sky, Threads, and we have a nice Discord community. Check the merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. Please support our new campaign to back up the best Ukrainian paratroopers, 81st and 82nd Brigade, together with Ukraine AIDS Operation. I will leave a link as the first pinned comment. And this is the elite of Ukrainian armed forces that are fighting in the hottest parts of the front lines, and most importantly in Kursk region. They need jammers, they need surveillance drones, and they need medvacs. We can do it together. Please support the campaign. It makes me very happy. And thank you for all the kind words, wishes, your wisdom. I read all of your comments. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming sponsors and patrons of the channel. But most importantly, thank you for standing against the evil, and thank you for standing with Ukraine in this very important civilizational war. Slava Ukraini!